Live from 2 News. This is Talkin' Real, powered by Strong Auto Group.
Good evening and welcome into another edition of Talkin' Real. Brian Dunseth and I are here every Thursday evening, and Dunny RSL with a rare weekend off. So, Coach Jeff Cassar giving the players 4 days off. So you played in the league for about a decade. 4 days off. What does that mean? Mentally refreshed? Is going to be a different bunch of guys when they come back?
Yeah, you get away from the game completely. I think psychologically this is important 4 days for this group, especially after finding themselves in the place that they're at in the Western Conference standings. The good news is also physically you get a little bit of a rest, and you get guys like Javier Morales, Kyle Beckerman coming back from the U.S. men's national team. You get to kind of ease things up a little bit. Now, when you get back into training session, that's where you get run to death for the first couple of days. Every day that you have off is considered 3 days of full fitness that you're losing. So now it's about this group getting prepared as they turn the corner in the MLS season, but most importantly, they start focusing on the U.S. Open Cup, which is probably one of the most important tournaments that this group's going to play as it becomes the qualifier, the automatic qualifier for CONCACAF Champions League. All
right, we will get to that in just a minute. First, we'll look back quickly to RSL and Colorado, two lowest scoring teams in the West. They played a scoreless draw. Jeff Cassar had his hands tied early in this one. He had to use one of his 3 substitutions almost immediately. First minute, Hamas and Olave clearing the ball up the far side. We don't see what happens. The camera follows the ball while Olave goes down.
Well, he's reaching for that hip flexor, that upper right quad, and that's not what you want to see for an older defender in this league, whose strength and athleticism is all about his burst, being able to pull away.
13th minute, Javier Morales on the corner. Sabo alone, put it over the bar.
Well, and this has really been the calling card defensively for the Colorado Rapids all season long. Poor marking individually in the box. Collective movement, good run from Sabo, needs to keep it on frame.
38th minute. Javi serving it up for Sabo again.
Well, and the big talking point coming into this match is that you finally got the 4 attacking players on the field from the opening whistle the first time in 2015, and you start to see the chances generated because of that.
86th minute, still scoreless. Abdoulaye Mansali's service turned back. Morales tuned it up for Luke Mulholland.
Well, he had the chance to be the hero and replicate the goal that he scored against Toronto FC at home earlier this season. What a fantastic ball from Javier Morales, side volley. And unfortunately for Luke, he's got to keep it on frame. He's got to force Clint Irwin to make the save.
88th minute, scary moment for RSL. Aaron Mon trying to make the tackle here, and the referee points right to the spot.
Well, and credit to the striker, Solinak, and he does a good job. Alundu pulls away. He gets the touch before Mon comes through, and a huge mistake from Aaron Mon. If you're going to make that decision and go for the ball, you got to get it, or the referee, rightly so, is going to point to the spot.
Was Nick Romano in Dylan Powell's head? Romano goes the wrong way, but Powell sends it wide.
Well, and for Dylan Powers, he steps up, slight little hesitation, and every goalkeeper and player in Major League Soccer knows how good Nick Romano is in goal. Javier Morales with a little trash talk right in the face of Powers.
Stoppage time. Mansali serving one for Olmus Garcia. The ball is loose. Javi with one last chance.
Well, and a little bit surprising that the referee, Kevin Stott, wouldn't allow Real Salt Lake to take that last corner kick in the dying moments. Suggested added time, 2 minutes. That shot taken at 92:03. Deflection goes wide. Unfortunately for Javier Morales, could have been the hero, just inches past the outside of that left post.
RSL gets 1 point at home. First game in a stretch where they're playing 6 out of 8 at home. They needed the full 3. They wanted the full 3. They get 1. So here's how it looks in the Western Conference standings. Seattle and Vancouver tied for the top spot. Sporting Kansas City just 2 points back. Portland's gotten hot. 3 straight wins for the first time in their MLS history. Timbers tied for 4th with Dallas. Galaxy are 6th, just a point in front of Houston for the last playoff berth. RSL 3 points back. They've got 18.
Well, one of the big talking points heading into the week was the fact that Jeff Cassar finally had Joao Plata, Sebastian Jaime, Alvaro Saborio, and Javier Morales on the field from the opening whistle from the very first time in 2015. And the chances generated were pretty incredible. 17 shots overall throughout the course of the 90 minutes against the Colorado Rapids. And let's take a look at some of those chances from set pieces, movement off the ball, creating chances, and Sabo sitting at the back post, getting away from Bobby Burling. This would not be the only chance that Alvaro Saborio Saborio would have that unmarked. You would think that he'd have the opportunity to keep his shot on frame. But it's also about Javier Morales and regenerating possession. As that ball was cleared, Colorado having a difficult time clearing that second ball, winning possession in the midfield. And that's where a guy like Javier Morales is just going to pick apart. Floated ball, sitting to the back door, and again, Alvaro Saborio rises up like a salmon up over Bobby Burling, but can't keep it on frame. And what about the movement? When Joao Plata tucks inside, Javier Morales with the freedom to push back outside, and these are the chances, and you see Sebastian Jaime floating in at the top of the 6-yard box. This is the movement because of the three-prong attack that allows Javier Morales a little bit more freedom to tuck inside and find that space. And then the final opportunity, which I was really impressed with, was as this ball comes back out, Sabo sitting at the back post, or excuse me, Sebastian Jaime at the back post, and that's where Alvaro Saborio regenerates through the big header. And listen, DJ, at the end of the day, when you take a look at the chances from this team, I think the big talking point coming up was, okay, we've got a different formation, we got a different look, we got some injuries, international duty, but when you finally get these players on the field, what you do see is an athletic front four that's constantly picking up the ball in dangerous spots. They're closer to the attacking third. They're good movement, good ingenuity, inverted runs, and most importantly, they're creating chances in ways that we haven't seen them create. And for the first time, we finally got the players that we want to see in the attack in that final third.
And you talk about the four guys. There's another one. What about Jordan Allen, who has played very well and looks like he could be a really dynamic player, still on international duty?
Well, and his role is going to change a little bit because of the success of bringing guys back from injury, not necessarily the success on the field. Now Jordan Allen, who played 80 minutes coming on for an injury for Bradford Jamieson in the United States 1-0 win against Colombia in the under-20s, that puts them into the quarterfinals. Now what you're seeing is a difficulty for Jeff Cassar to pick and choose how he's going to get his most exciting, most attack-minded players into the starting 11 once you have that full complement of riches.
But with Open Cup and with Champions League, he's going to need more players.
There you go.
RSL needs to enjoy this downtime because the schedule is about to get very busy. Denny, RSL playing Sounders 2, which is the equivalent of Real Monarchs, on Tuesday the 16th, U.S. Open Cup. Now, a week from Saturday, Sporting KC will be here for an MLS game. A midweek trip immediately back east to play the Red Bulls, then all the way back home to face Columbus. And if RSL wins their Open Cup game against Sounders 2 at home on the 16th, that means they get another Open Cup game on the 30th. We're looking at 5 games in 15 days.
Well, and listen, this is where you expected things to get difficult for this group, and quite frankly, this is why you don't want to see this team where they're at in the Western Conference standings. You expected them to be in the top 4 bare minimum, but because of these struggles, now they've put themselves in a hole that they're going to have to climb themselves out of.
And to further complicate things, in late June, several RSL players figured to leave for international duty. The Gold Cup is going to cost RSL several players.
Well, and as of right now, the train of thought is we're waiting till June 27th, that home match against the Columbus Crew. You will think that they'll be released directly after that match for Gold Cup duty. But again, with 5 games of the next 7 at home in Major League Soccer alone, this team's got to start winning. There's no more excuses on the table. You can't play any of these cards for RSL.
They need the full 3. And then they need it again, and then they need it again.
Right. And again.
All right, the U.S. Open Cup, as you mentioned earlier here in the show, the U.S. Open Cup looks like RSL's best path back to qualify for the Champions League next summer in 2016 group play. So does RSL load up their lineup, or do they keep the best available 11 focused on MLS games as they try to make up ground and qualify for the playoffs? Number one, what will you do? And number two, if you were in charge.
Yeah.
Number two, which, people right now are going, well, mercifully, he's not. And number two, what do you think RSL is leaning towards doing? How do you think Jeff Cassar will play it?
Well, as a player, the focus, I think, would be to get your strongest possible starting 11, barring injuries or guys coming back from injuries, because it's a Tuesday game and there's plenty of time to recover. If it's a Wednesday game and you've got a game on the road afterwards that Saturday, it becomes a little bit difficult. But I think because this team's going to be fresh, they're going to be looking for some sharpness. They're going to be looking for a little bit more accountability internally amongst the players individually. I think he's got to go with his strongest possible starting 11 because, listen, Seattle 2, S2, Sounders 2, everyone might think that this is a lower level. It might be a drop-off. there's some really good players on S2 that have more than the common sense ability to be a part of Ziggy Schmidt's team. They're just getting game reps, and right now this team is running away in the lower levels.
Well, no one, whether you're on the team or sitting in the stands as a fan, should be taking it for granted. Look what happened with Atlanta. Now, that was in Atlanta, but we see teams from lower leagues rise up and take MLS teams down.
Well,
and it happened to ourselves.
And even when you go back to the final against DC United, I mean, one shot on frame, one goal, and that changed everything. So it only takes one chance, and this is a very exciting S2 team that's coming in from Seattle.
All right. Well, RSL, there's many storylines, many things to look at. The U.S. national team has also given us something to look at.
Can I take you on a ride where you never been? Can I take you on a ride where you never been? Can I take you on a ride where you never been? Can I take you on a ride where you never been? Can I take you on a ride where you never been? Can I take you on a ride where you never been? Can I take you on a ride where you never been? Can I take you on a ride where you never been?
Jordan Morris. It's there from Bobby Wood.
They're friendlies. They are exhibitions. So you have to be careful of overhyping the last two results, which is what sportscasters say right before they start overhyping the last two results. Dunny, the USA traditionally struggles in Europe. We know that. World Cup, friendlies, it's been tough over there. But the U.S. beat the Netherlands 4-3 with 3 goals in the last 20 minutes. They beat Germany 2-1. Both those games in Europe, true road games. So how good are these guys? What has Klinsmann got going?
Well, what it is it's 2 more scalps to add to wins in Italy, in Czech Republic. It could have shown in Switzerland. This team is a very young, exciting group. And when you put this in perspective, though, and listen, it's hard to put it in perspective because we're so excited that they beat Holland in Holland, you beat Germany in Germany. When you put it in perspective, the one thing I think you got to keep in mind is Jurgen Klinsmann's used 6 substitutes in both of these games. The question about Jurgen Klinsmann has always been about the tactics, the shape from the start. When you make 3 substitutions at halftime, you're changing your team. And then when you make 3 more offensive-minded substitutions to go for the throw to the game, all credit to you, but it's a friendly. Now, in a tournament format, like, say, the Gold Cup, Jurgen Klinsmann's got 3 changes. How does that punish him based on his starting 11 to start? And if you've got guys like Jermaine Jones, Clint Dempsey, Josie Altidore in the starting 11, are you going to take those guys out and bring in a Bobby Wood, bring in a Jordan Morris? Are you going to bring in a DeAndre Yedlin? So when you look big picture, fantastic result. This is what you want to see for the U.S. men's national team. But when you put the magnifying glass on it, you got to step back and say, okay, great result, but these aren't the same factors that the U.S. national team will have in a Gold Cup tournament setting.
All right. So time now for the keys to the bye week.
Well, for me, it's first and foremost, just get healthy. Step off the field, relax a little bit, and go back into that locker room and make sure your body is right. The bigger thing for me also is taking advantage of the home situation that you've got coming up. Yeah, you've got 5 games in the next 15 days should you win your Open Cup match, but you also got 5 of the next 7 at home in Major League Soccer, and you just haven't been good enough from the standard that's been set for this group at Rio Tinto Stadium for this particular fan base, and the time is now. Enough of the conversations, enough of the excuses. You can't use the international window. You can't use the injuries. You can't use the suspensions anymore. The player individual mistakes. This group cannot afford in the next 2 months to be where they're at. Because if they are where they're at in the Western Conference standings at the end of these 2 months, there could be some drastic changes both on the field and off the field. And listen, it's the reality of sport, especially when this team has been so incredibly successful in Major League Soccer.
Keys to the game brought to you by Master Electrical. All right, there are Dunny's keys. We will be back here next Thursday night with another edition of Talkin Real. Dave Fox will be back here next with Game 4 of the NBA Finals, the Warriors and the Cavs, coming up. Stay with us on KMYU Talkin Sports.